South America hides secrets so massive they actively defy the laws of physics and shatter our understanding of human history. In this video, we venture deep into the Andes, the Amazon, and unforgiving deserts to uncover 5 impossible archaeological anomalies. Forget everything the textbooks taught you. These aren't just ancient ruins. They are terrifying proof that our knowledge of the deep past is painfully, dangerously incomplete. Hidden deep within the humid, impenetrable jungles of Ecuador lies the terrifying entrance to a completely different world. A world permanently ruled by eternal, suffocating darkness where the sheer, monumental scale of the underground space aggressively forces you to question whether it was created by blind nature at all. The Cueva de los Tallos, the cave of the oil birds, is not just a deep, naturally formed sinkhole in the ground. It is a massive, echoing wound in the body of the planet that jealously guards the most heavily debated and intriguing legend in all of South America: the persistent, tantalizing legend of the metallic library. Descending into the gaping maw of the cave is a literal leap into the unknown abyss. The primary main entrance is a terrifying vertical shaft dropping straight down into the blackness for more than 60 meters. But when your boots finally hit the rocky bottom, the real, unsettling mystery truly begins. You don't step into a normal karst cave full of damp stalactites, stalagmites, and uneven, chaotic floors. Instead, colossal, impossibly vast architectural halls open up before you. The walls here are shockingly, unnervingly flat. You see perfect right angles, completely smooth ceilings, and symmetrical corridors. It all looks exactly as if thousands of years ago, someone deliberately carved out these tunnels using a giant, high-tech tunnel boring machine. In the mid-20th century, an explosive sensation swept the globe. Explorers passionately claimed to have found a hidden, sealed room deep within the lower halls of Los Tallos filled with thousands of strange books. But the pages of these books were made of an unknown, rust-proof metallic alloy, and they were intricately engraved with the complex geometric symbols of an alien language. There were widespread reports of massive animal statues, golden artifacts, and the lost advanced technologies of an unknown subterranean civilization. The story was so incredibly compelling that it even drew the direct attention of American astronaut Neil Armstrong, who personally descended into these deep caves as part of a heavily funded expedition. Official mainstream science quickly states that the metallic library was never found, and that the unnervingly straight walls are merely a bizarre, highly unusual trick of natural geological fault lines separating perfectly. But those who have actually stood inside tell a very different, chilling story. The oppressive feeling of artificiality within Los Tallos is deeply overwhelming. Walking cautiously through these dark, perfectly straight corridors, listening to the lonely echo of your own footsteps, you simply cannot shake the haunting feeling. We are not the first ones here. This underground architecture feels exactly like the forgotten, heavily fortified bunker of an advanced civilization that, for some unknown reason, decided to retreat deep beneath the earth. There is art created strictly for human enjoyment, meant to be hung on walls or placed in city squares. And then there is art created exclusively for those looking down at us from the high heavens. To truly understand the baffling scale and profound mystery of the Nazca Plateau in southern Peru, you physically have to leave the ground. Standing firmly on the surface of this sun-scorched, brutally arid desert, you will see absolutely nothing but an endless, chaotic scattering of dark, oxidized stones and shallow, seemingly meaningless trenches stretching infinitely toward the horizon. But the exact moment you rise a few hundred meters into the air, the chaotic noise instantly transforms into impossible, breathtaking, perfect order. From high above, the dead desert suddenly comes completely alive. The ground beneath you becomes a gigantic, sprawling canvas inscribed with thousands of perfectly straight lines, massive, runway-like geometric trapezoids, and gigantic, complex animal drawings. A giant spider with perfectly rendered proportions, a monkey with a mathematically spiraling tail, a hummingbird, a massive condor. Some of these magnificent figures span hundreds of meters in length. The straight lines run for tens of kilometers, crossing deep ravines, climbing steep hills, and plunging into valleys without ever deviating a single degree from their mathematically perfect trajectory. It's exactly as if someone traced them across the earth with a giant laser from low orbit. The ultimate riddle of Nazca is a profound riddle of perspective and execution. These massive, intricate geoglyphs were painstakingly created over 2,000 years ago. They were carved in an era when there were absolutely no airplanes, no hot air balloons, and no observation drones. How could the ancient indigenous artists of the past flawlessly control the perfect proportions of a continuous drawing the size of several modern football fields if they could not physically elevate themselves to see the result of their strenuous work? Why dedicate entire generations of intense labor to create colossal, intricate paintings that are completely impossible to appreciate while standing on the surface of the earth? Mainstream scientists confidently talk about ritual pathways, ancient water cults, and sprawling astronomical calendars used for basic agriculture. But when you are flying in a small plane over the plateau, feeling the wind and seeing this cold, calculated mathematical precision, entirely different, more radical thoughts come to mind. The Nazca lines look remarkably like industrial navigational markings, or perhaps an act of desperate devotion by ancient people trying to send a massive visual message to gods who had long ago departed for the stars. It is a breathtaking monument defying time, a permanent message to the sky that we, only now, having finally gained the technological ability to fly, can properly read. Imagine a storage drive that cannot be formatted, burned, or easily deleted. A monumental hard drive that has stubbornly survived millennia to deliver a message in a language we still cannot decipher. This is exactly what the Pedra do Inga looks like, hidden in a shallow riverbed in northeastern Brazil. It is a massive gneiss monolith, almost 46 meters long and about 4 meters high. But it isn't the physical size that shocks you upon seeing it. It's what is meticulously carved into its unyielding, ancient surface. We are entirely used to ancient humans leaving behind easily understandable scenes of mammoth hunts, stick figures with primitive spears, or simple handprints pressed against cave walls. But whoever worked on the Pedra do Inga some 6,000 years ago thought in entirely different, almost futuristic categories. The entire surface of the stone is completely covered with incredibly complex geometric shapes, perfect spirals, mysterious fractals, and interlocking symbols that look significantly more like advanced diagrams from a quantum physics textbook than prehistoric rock art. The most striking revelation comes when astronomers and mathematicians examine this stone. It turns out that these seemingly chaotic dots, lines, and indentations form incredibly accurate star maps. Researchers have confidently identified the constellation of Orion alongside a detailed, sprawling depiction of the Milky Way galaxy. Think about the heavy implications of that fact. 6,000 years ago, during an era when, according to official mainstream history, humanity was just beginning to master primitive agriculture and rudimentary stone tools, someone was methodically transferring a highly accurate map of the night sky onto solid rock. The technical side of the question is equally baffling and disturbing. Gneiss is an exceptionally hard rock. To leave such deep, perfectly straight, and smoothly polished grooves in it requires either years of grueling, agonizing labor with diamond-tipped cutters or advanced technologies we know absolutely nothing about. The lines simply do not look like they were chipped away with a primitive stone chisel. They look exactly as if they were melted, laser-etched, or cut with a high-precision rotary tool. Resting in the water, constantly weathered by the elements and shifting river currents, the Pedra do Inga silently keeps its secret. This isn't just a piece of ancient art intended for local decoration. It is an encrypted, monumental database, a cosmic message left in the dirt, and we have hopelessly lost the key to reading it. For centuries, we have always perceived the vast, sprawling Amazon jungle as a terrifying, unforgiving green hell. It was universally seen as an impenetrable, endlessly wild territory where deadly, untamed nature was the absolute, unchallenged master of the domain. It was widely and comfortably believed by historians that before the arrival of European explorers, only small, primitive, scattered tribes could possibly survive here, hiding in the humid shadows of the primeval canopy, barely scraping by on what the forest provided. But it turns out the deep, ancient forest has been lying to us all along. Beneath its incredibly dense foliage, it was actively hiding a lost civilization of a staggering scale that we are only just beginning to truly comprehend. The shocking, undeniable truth began to reveal itself in a rather brutal and tragic way, alongside the massive modern deforestation efforts in the Brazilian state of Acre. When heavy industrial machinery violently ripped the ancient green cover from the earth, high-resolution satellites captured something completely unimaginable. Stamped right into the exposed red soil were hundreds of colossal, geometrically perfect earthworks, massive ancient geoglyphs. These were flawlessly executed perfect circles, precise squares, and complex interlocking polygons. The deeply dug trenches forming these distinct shapes reached up to 11 meters wide and were dug deeper than the average height of a grown man. These giant, meticulously calculated shapes are scattered widely across hundreds of square kilometers of the massive river basin. They conclusively prove a deeply shocking historical fact. Thousands of years ago, this specific land was not a wild, untouched forest at all. It was a bustling, highly organized landscape, heavily populated and teeming with life. There was a highly developed, massive empire with a staggering population of millions. A society literally reshaping the local terrain to fit their agricultural and societal needs, giving us a profound new vision of the earth we thought we knew. They built complex straight road networks, expansive irrigation canals, and monumental earthen fortresses with a strict mathematical precision that modern topographers would deeply envy. The startling discovery of the Amazonian geoglyphs forcefully turns the entire accepted history of South America completely upside down. They starkly show that our smug knowledge of human history is merely like a thin layer of dust resting on a massive unread ancient book. As soon as the encroaching jungle retreated, it laid bare an uncomfortable truth. We are not the ultimate pinnacle of evolution, finally taming the wild nature. If you ever want to see a place where modern engineering nervously steps aside and quietly admits defeat, you need to head high into the Peruvian Andes. Sacsayhuaman is not just an ancient fortress overlooking the city of Cusco. It is a literal architectural nightmare for any modern builder or structural engineer who might theoretically try to replicate it without heavy, mechanized machinery. This megalithic complex consists of 3 colossal terraced, zigzagging walls, and its sheer physical scale effortlessly breaks every single assumption we have about the technological capabilities of ancient humans. Stop for a moment and try to clearly visualize a solid stone block weighing 200 tons. That is the combined staggering weight of several modern military tanks or a fully loaded commercial airliner. Now imagine that this massive monolith doesn't just need to be moved, it needs to be carefully carved out of a bedrock quarry, dragged for miles across rough, treacherous mountainous terrain, traversing steep ravines, and then placed perfectly on top of other identical massive blocks. But the most inexplicable and infuriating part for scientists isn't the impossible weight, it's the microscopic, mind-bending precision of the fit. Sacsayhuaman is built using a highly advanced, baffling technique known as polygonal masonry. The stones here are not standard rectangular bricks. They have monstrously complex, multi-sided, asymmetrical shapes, yet they are fitted together so tightly that it is literally impossible to slide even a thin razor blade or a single sheet of paper between their joints. There is absolutely no cement, no mortar. Just pure, flawless geometry and an impossible mastery of gravity and physics. Every single block is uniquely carved to interlock permanently with its neighbors in a massive, 3-dimensional puzzle that locks the entire wall into a single, cohesive, unbreakable unit. Scientists, archaeologists, and engineers still passionately argue, how exactly was this done? How could a civilization that supposedly didn't even know the wheel or possess hard iron tools process ultra-hard rock with such laser-like precision? How did they expertly lift and manipulate these monoliths? Some blocks have strangely smoothed, glossy edges, as if the solid stone temporarily became pliable. Sacsayhuaman has survived countless devastating earthquakes that reduced modern Spanish colonial brick buildings to dust. Yet these cyclopean walls proudly remain standing, and they will continue to stand for millennia, quietly mocking our arrogance and reminding us that our knowledge of the deep past is painfully, embarrassingly incomplete. Lake Titicaca itself deeply defies basic logic and violently challenges our understanding of human endurance. It sits at a staggering altitude of nearly 4,000 meters above sea level. The air here is dangerously thin. The deep water is freezing year-round, and the high-altitude sun brutally burns your skin. For a very long time, indigenous legends whispered about sunken cities of the gods, majestic stone temples deliberately hidden at the bottom of this giant body of water. Modern scholars easily dismissed them as just beautiful fairy tales, local folklore designed purely to entertain passing tourists. That was exactly the case until professional underwater archaeologists finally descended into its frigid, unforgiving depths. At a depth of about 30 meters, divers encountered something that absolutely should not have been there. In the murky, greenish water, the sweeping beams of their flashlights illuminated the perfect, undeniable geometry of massive stone blocks. This was no random pile of geological debris left by a glacier. Hidden entirely beneath the cold waves was a colossal, meticulously planned temple complex. Massive walls built from perfectly fitted, heavy boulders stretched along the lakebed for almost a full kilometer. Nearby, they found wide, paved roads leading into the dark aquatic abyss, alongside extensive agricultural terraces where unknown crops were once cultivated. The sheer scale of the discovery is paralyzing for historians. The age of these underwater megaliths is conservatively estimated to be at least 1.5 to 2,000 years old. But how did an entire thriving city end up at such a crushing depth? Geologists confirm that the water level in Lake Titicaca has fluctuated wildly over millennia due to cataclysmic climatic shifts. This means the mysterious civilization that built this complex lived in entirely different environmental conditions. They erected their monumental structures, carved their stones, and paved their streets completely unaware that the rising waters would one day swallow their immense labor forever. Diving down to these submerged ruins, researchers feel a profound, almost crushing sense of mystical awe. You swim silently over a temple courtyard where high priests once conducted their sacred rituals, drifting over ancient roads where people once walked, and you realize just how incredibly fragile any earthly empire can be. Titicaca is not just a beautiful high-altitude lake. It is a giant, watery sarcophagus, preserving a vital, submerged fragment of unknown human history, deep frozen in the cold water at the roof of the world. And who knows how many more sprawling ancient cities remain completely hidden on its unexplored floor.